afternoon, or good morning rather, to everyone who's joining us right now. We're going to go ahead and wait a little while to see if anyone else joins us. You're joining us for a webinar today that we're discussing the EB-2 National Interest Waiver, a path to permanent residency. My name is Stephanie Matza, Associate Attorney here at the law office of Beltran Brito Casimir, and by video is accompanying me Alexis Blanco, also an Associate Attorney here at the firm. How are you, Alexis?
Doing well, Stephanie. Good morning.
So let's go ahead and get started. Anyone else, so you know, you have a chat feature on the right-hand side of your screen. If you have any questions during this webinar, you can go ahead and ask those questions live, and we'll be able to respond live to any of your questions you may have. If you have a question in Spanish, feel free to write the question in Spanish, and we'll go ahead and respond in English. Para aquellos que tienen pregunta en español, pueden escribir y también lo vamos a contestar en inglés, ¿ok? Para que sepan. Entonces, today we're talking about what's known as the EB-2 National Interest Waiver. It is a path to permanent residency. So Alexis, tell us a little bit about, what this entails. What is this?
Sure, right. So the EB-2 is a visa category, employment-based visa. The goal here is that you're becoming a legal permanent resident. So this is a path to that. It's the EB-2 is divided into 3 subcategories where you can apply under the advanced degree, exceptional ability, or there's a third, which we'll be reviewing today, national interest waiver. It's where you have that advanced degree or the exceptional ability, and we're going to waive the need of having a sponsor or a job offer, right? So you are self-petitioning based off of this exceptional experience that you've gained throughout your career. So this is normally geared for people in the fields of business, science, the arts as well. But it's a wonderful path towards residency and potentially citizenship. I mean, I don't know if you want to expand on that a bit, but this is also good for the family, of course.
The reason it's great is exactly what Alexis said. It's you don't have a petitioning company, you don't have a sponsor, you're self-petitioning yourself. There's no need for a company to ask for you, right? And then the second benefit really is that the benefit extends for the family. So it's a path for permanent residency for you, and your spouse and children under 21 that are unmarried will also be able to obtain the benefit and obtain permanent residency in the US. Once you're permanent residents in the US, then after 5 years, you have the option of opting for US citizenship. So it is a path for the entire family, which makes it a great option for people as well. So let's talk a little bit about processing and how it works. Essentially, there are 2 stages when we talk about green card petitions. This is just in general, right? Stage 1, I like to call it the stage where you are proving why you qualify. So in this case, why you have exceptional ability, which is, Alexis, what we're going to go ahead and go into significant detail about later. Yeah. So first is show why you have this exceptional ability, show why we should waive the requirement for a job offer. And stage 2 is what's known as the administrative phase, basically where you're submitting copies of passports, visas, things of that nature, where they're just going to verify your identification for the most part, right? So what are the 3 ways, Alexis, of processing this as far as stage 1 and stage 2?
Right. So, stage 1, which will always be the same for everyone, whether you're processing in the U.S. or outside of the U.S. in a consular format, is stage 1. We're going to need the I-140 petition, right? So this is the application for an employment-based visa, immigrant employment-based visa, and the ETA form, ETA 9089, if I'm not mistaken. And the ETA form, it's more of a procedural thing. That's usually what you're submitting to the Department of Labor. But since we're going to request that national interest waiver, we're not submitting that to the Department of Labor. We're submitting that to USCIS along with the I-140 and G-28 for attorney representation. And it serves more of a guide of your work experience, right? So more than half of the form is not going to be filled out because you have no sponsor and no future job offer. But that's really that stage 1 where, I mean, it might be taking roughly 10 to 12 months to process. And there are 3 ways then to submit that stage 1. You could either submit it with the stage 2 together, separate, or do the consular format. I don't know if you want to expand maybe on that stage 2 a bit, Stephanie.
Sure. So, okay. So if you are currently in the United States, you have 2 options of presenting this petition. Either you submit both your stage 1 I-140 and your stage 2 I-45 adjustment at the exact same time, which basically allows you to remain in the United States. The benefit here is within a short amount of time, you'll get employment authorization, travel authorization. You'll be able to remain in the US while this case is pending. The asterisk is you must have a legal status when you submit this stage 1 and stage 2 concurrently. That is one way of doing it. The second way of doing it is sending stage 1 while you're in the United States. Let's say you have another status. Let's say you're here as an H-1B, for instance. Yeah. So you send stage 1, and then after the fact, once stage 1 is approved, you can send stage 2. So either you present both at the same time or one after the other. The third way of doing this is if you are outside of the US, let's say you're coming in and out as a tourist, but you really live outside of the US, you can submit stage 1, and then once that's approved, you're going to do what's known as consular processing. Basically, USCIS will send your case to the NBC. They'll coordinate with the consulate in your country. You'll get an interview in your country, and then you'll be able to come into the US. So there's really 3 ways of processing it, and part of our strategy here at the firm is to decide what's best for you and your family and what's the best way to proceed.
Right, and one thing that, that also determines this is the visa bulletin. Right, so that really affects stage 2 if you're processing in the United States. So consular processing, you're going to submit that stage 2 once you have that stage 1 approval, the I-140 approval. But stage 2 in the US, that's determined on the priority date, which you'll receive when you submit stage 1, and the visa bulletin, which USCIS in conjunction with the Department of State put together each month. It's divided by visa category. So this would be employment-based second preference and the country you're from. So it's currently divided under China, India, Mexico, Philippines, Vietnam, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras. Those 3 are one group, and then everyone else. Luckily, most of those are current. I think only China, Mexico, and China and India, are the only ones that currently have a backlog in priority dates. Everyone else is current. For the most part, it's been that way.
I'm going to interrupt you just to make it a little more. The idea is it's a quota system, right? That's how I like to explain it. It's a quota system. So there's a certain amount available. If too many people applied that month, then there won't be enough availability. So basically, the day you submit your case, you get what's known as your priority date, and that is your ticket in line. That's how I like to describe it, so people really get that it's a line, it's a quota system, and that's what the visa bulletin is, right?
100%, 100%. So normally it's current, which is great, but that's part of the strategy and what we were considering at the time of filing. And another thing to consider too is, unfortunately, there's no premium processing for that stage 1, which a lot of the other employment-based visa categories do have. So that will take about 10 to 12 months. And then stage 2 is roughly taking about a year and a half. Now, because of COVID, there's a little bit of a backlog. So, I mean, there's a lot to consider, but that's why we're here, Stephanie. We're gonna help do what's best for you and your family based off of your needs, your wants, and the law, of course.
And this is usually what we like to do here at the firm, right? We like to do a short-term plan and a long-term plan. Maybe this national interest waiver is a long-term plan for you, but remember, the sooner you start, the sooner you're in line in this quota, right? So it's an idea and it's a path to permanent residency that might be a good idea if you're thinking of a long-term plan. And with us, we're going to be able to come up with a strategy based on visa bulletin, like Alexis explained, of when to submit, how to submit, right? So, okay, so Alexis, let's go ahead and go into the nitty gritty, which is what is exceptional ability? What is this national interest waiver? What are the criteria? Basically, to give a brief overview, you have to go ahead and show first that you have exceptional ability in a certain way that Alexis is going to describe. And then secondly, that your admittance into the US is in the national interest, and that's why you don't need a company asking for you. You are so important and you can bring such a benefit to the US that that's why you don't need a company petitioning for you. So let's go into it, Alexis.
Yeah, I mean, spot on. So let's start with that first part, right? Exceptional ability in the fields of science, business, and arts, right? So that's much broader than you think, right? So each case is different. But what we first need to demonstrate is that you have that exceptional ability. Now, there are 2 ways of doing this. One is, great, I have an advanced degree, so a master's, bachelor's, US-based or foreign, right? We'll do an equivalency to make sure that matches up. or a bachelor's degree and 5 years of post-baccalaureate work experience. So we're looking for full-time experience. We're seeing like a progression, right, in your title and your role and the duties that you're taking on, and the bachelor's degree. So that will equate to the advanced degree. That's one way of demonstrating the exceptional ability. The second way, so if you don't have that bachelor's plus 5 or the advanced degree, and it really depends on the profession when we choose just to go this route, is the exceptional ability. So there's 6 criteria, and you have to meet 3 of them. And so, I mean, Stephanie, maybe we should review those quickly and kind of give people an idea, well, what are those criteria? I think for professionals, this is something that's really easy to meet. Of course, we're going to evaluate the level of, how many years of experience, what does it have to be? But I mean, first one is just the academic record, right? So, you have diplomas, transcripts. So those are your degrees, right? So that if you have the degrees, automatically you meet one of those 6 criteria.
And the thing is that you've already studied. So the point of that criteria is to be able to show that you studied in that specific area. You have some sort of transcript courses that show that you have studied that field of expertise. So that is the first criterion. Again, like Alexis explained, we're looking to meet at least 3. Once you can meet at least 3, then immigration will essentially say, okay, you have the exceptionability necessary. So the second one is one that I think is probably the most important. I think Alexis will agree. And I love this for the case. And this is almost one of those things that I say, please bring it to me, because this is what I want for a successful case, which is letters showing that you have at least 10 years of experience working in the field. Yes, if you have 5 years experience in the field, you can apply. But the stronger case is probably going to be the 10 years of experience. You can show that you've been working in the field for 10 years. You're going to have letters from your former employers that essentially state this person worked from this date to this date, and those dates will add up for 10 years. And then they're going to explain a bit of your job duties and explain what you did, right? So some sort of general background as to why it's in the field, what your role was, what your job duties were, but especially the dates. It's such an easy category to win. Like I said, it's not necessary. Alexis, you and I have done cases where the person didn't have 10 years of experience. But if you do, this is such an easy category to win.
Exactly. I mean, there's the ideal case, and then there is the reality. And I mean, we work with the reality all the time. So if you have the 10 years, great. We're checking that box off. You have that full-time work experience. We see a progression in your role and your duties. You're moving up the chain. And or you've been on top, you're an executive throughout those 10 years. That's wonderful. But if you're not, don't hesitate to maybe consider this visa, because there are other categories. So for example, if you have a license, you're certified to practice an occupation, doctors, for example, lawyers, pilots, we get this all the time. That's where you're coming in.
Finance, there's all sorts of, a bunch of fields have certifications and licenses that you need in order to practice. And it's a license in your home country, right? So I've dealt with a lot of Colombian clients that they need to have a license in order to be working in IT. And so they have a license and they can prove that they have the license in their home country. Exactly.
And you have this training, it's formal training that you've gained, and you have all these certificates that are, that you need in order to move up in the chain. And this happens a lot when you're a government employee, whether you have a bachelor's or advanced degree or not, but you also have these certifications that allow you to take on these higher roles within a department, within the organization, within a company. So they're all very good. And so right there we have 3. The fourth one, Stephanie, is going to be salary, right? So have you earned a salary that's exceptionally high compared to others in your field, in your role? What's exceptionally high? I mean, it's open for debate. I think a safe number is saying, hey, if you're in that top 25%, and we could demonstrate that with either government figures. Here in the US, it's the Department of Labor who manages that, or a lot of private companies that, I mean, worldwide, they work on this and they track these figures. That's a 4th criterion, right?
And that's a lot of research that we're going to do for you, right, Alexis? So our job is, you're going to show me your salary. You're going to be, hey, Stephanie, this is what I earned last year. And we're going to take on that research to see, hey, is this a high salary compared to other people that are also working in this field? And that's a lot of the work we do. That's a lot of the research we do. That's a big category where we have to do investigation and say, is this a salary that's high comparative to others in your field?
Exactly. And I think, that meeting the salary criterion, we're going to work with you on this because maybe you have a source that's a little bit more up to date than ours, or, we have one but you can help us guide us to, what is comparable in your field. So, I mean, we really work as a team and we really love, working that way because I think normally we put out our best cases that way as a firm and with our clients. But a fifth criteria here that we have is the membership in a professional association. So as a professional, sometimes you're a member of this national organization, which is also tied to a greater international institution or association. And well, what's that process of membership? So if you have to be a member to be employed, maybe, we'll consider it. But if there's a process where they're kind of evaluating your work, your skills, if maybe there are different classes of membership, we want to show that there was something exceptional about being a member of that association. That's another one too that many of our clients will have.
Right. Then immigration is going to put less emphasis on the ones where you could just pay to be a member, because they're saying, no, we want you to show that you became a member because they looked at your work and they said you're valuable and that you have some sort of experience and trajectory in your field that's valuable for us. So the pay for memberships, not worth it. Don't waste your money on it. But the memberships where you're turning in your CV, they're taking a look at your work and they're saying, okay, based on your work, when I give you membership, that's the one that interests immigration a lot. I'm going to jump back to my IT example. In IT, there's a lot of, for instance, there's the Association of IT Professionals or Association of Cybersecurity Professionals. Those are the types of associations, examples that immigration is going to look to honor in this category.
Exactly. And and that kind of ties into the sixth criterion a bit, which is industry recognition. So there are a few ways that you can look at this, right? Because there's also a seventh criterion, which is other comparable. And I like to tie it in with industry recognition, and that's recognition from individuals, right? So other experts in the field, people whose opinion on who is exceptional in the industry matter, and from organizations, think of maybe awards that you've earned. If you've judged the work of someone or, evaluating someone's thesis work, right? Other professionals, maybe publications.
You've authored an article. Maybe you've written an article in your field. And so the publication, let's say it's a professional journal, the publication published it because you're considered really well known and it's a good article. That's a way of showing that, hey, listen, this company or this association said that I'm smart and that's why they went ahead and published my article, right?
Exactly.
Industry recognition, Alexis, can also be letters of recommendation, right?
100%. Those letters of recommendation are huge, I think. That's one way of doing it. The other forms of recognition too are, if you've spoken on the matter, if you've gone, you're a member of an association, they have their yearly or annual conference, seasonal, and you go in and you're speaking on a topic, right? You're considered an expert in the field. And I think that's another recognition that we can share with immigration. If you
Maybe
have
you've been interviewed in a newspaper, Alexis.
That too. I mean, again, they're interviewing you or discussing your work. You're named in there. I mean, these are all different forms of recognition, and this is where we in the firm, we get a bit creative, and it's worked successfully. And what is recognition? I mean, it's very broad, and we like to help define what recognition can be. And there are many ways of doing it. And so, kind of to summarize, all of these categories are there to help demonstrate exceptional ability, right? So, the EB-2, when you have a sponsor and a job offer and you go through that Department of Labor process, also requires that. But the goal today is we don't want that sponsor. We don't have a job offer. We're going to self-petition. And it really comes to point 2 of this process, of the national interest waiver process, which is how do we waive the need for the sponsor? How do we waive the need for the job offer? And that's demonstrating that you can contribute something that will have a national interest to the United States.
Right. So essentially it's going to be that. It's a lot of people get scared by the word national, right? How am I going to show that I'm contributing something of national importance? It's not as scary as you think. If you are, for instance, if you're working in a field and you're working at this small institution, but you publish a paper, but that paper could potentially be read and used by other institutions across the country, that could be national importance. If you're working on something that is, I keep going back to my cybersecurity example because I really love it. It's a field that it's very, very well documented that the US is in need of. The US needs cybersecurity professionals. There's a huge demand, and there's very little people in the US qualified for that. So if you can show that you work in a field that's really needed in the US because there's jobs available and not people to fill them, then that is a way of showing it's in the national interest to let you in because there's a national shortage of that type of person. Do you have any other examples, Alexis?
Certainly. So, what are we doing here, right? So the matter of Danisar, this is what kind of changed things back in 2016, 17. And so as Stephanie pointed out, national interest, it's changed, right? So for example, what is that? So the three things we're trying to do here to show the national interest. One is you have a proposed endeavor. So what's this work that you're going to do that's important, right? And that's where we get a little bit creative, and we're trying to identify how you can help the US. So pilots, for example, we get that a lot. The pilots, well, there's a shortage of pilots in the United States, and we need people that have that flying experience and those credentials. They're going to have their impact by filling a national need, right? So they might fly for a regional company, sure, but they're filling a national need, something that the US government has identified as needed throughout the United States. You're performing research at your local university or an institution. Yes, it's local. You're not traveling maybe yet and speaking on the matter, but that research is breakthrough. People are citing your work. This is expanding other points in the field. That has national influence. If you've worked for the Department of, let's say, labor in your home country, and you had somewhat of an important role within that department, guess what? You might know a lot about tax matters or employment matters. And guess what? COVID, just unemployment skyrocketing, that's a need. How can you assist us in the United States in expanding or lowering unemployment, expanding a tax base? No. So, this is any sector: economy, health, cultural, climate, technology, housing, underserved areas, maybe working in rural areas, doctors working in, for example, the VA, right? So there's a need and there's a shortage of medical professionals, nurses as well. There are many ways of framing this, and it's looking at each case, seeing what you've earned, what's your degree, what's your experience, and that's going to really assist us in creating that proposed endeavor, Stephanie.
And that's where we come in, right? That's why, if you're really asking the question, why is there a need for an attorney in this position? It's that final portion. It's that very creative, very interesting way of portraying to the officer why it is the US needs you. Why is it the US, and you could bring this sort of benefit to the US? And that is our job. That is our job, to be creative and professional, and being able to show all of your work history, show everything you do, and then say, look at all this package, we need this here. And that's our job. And that's really why EB-2 NIW is such a beautiful thing, because it's a very creative argument based on things you've already done and things you already have. So a lot of the times I like to offer this position, offer this visa, and offer this residency petition to clients, because it's something, a lot of the things you already have, and the things you might not have might be easy to obtain, such as a membership in an association. And this is an easy way to be able to show, hey, listen, I could bring something to the US because I already have the work experience. And so it's a great permanent residency path. Exactly. Alexis, let me know if you have any other comments. If not, we could go ahead and go to the questions.
Well, I do want to add, so we kind of opened up and said, hey, the first part of exceptional ability, you could demonstrate it with just the advanced degree, for example, right? But I want you to know that it's still important to provide evidence on those 6 criteria, right? Which also demonstrate exceptional ability. Because the second part and third part of the national interest waiver is showing that you're well positioned to advance that endeavor. Excuse me. So that evidence that we're using to show that you're exceptional is going to show that you're well positioned, right? Your previous success and what you've done in your career, that's displaying, offer the officer guidance that you're well positioned to do it in the future. And well positioned, I keep saying it because that's the terminology they use, right, in the regulations. So we really want to see, hey, if you have that degree, wonderful, let's still get the evidence to show and demonstrate that you've had that success before and that you're well positioned to do it. Because guess what? We want to waive the need for, again, the sponsor and the job offer. And by the way, if you have an offer from someone or someone's interested in you, let's include that as well as part of the strategy. But I think that pretty much sums it up, Stephanie.
Beautiful. Okay. So let's go ahead and go to the questions. As we said, you can submit questions as we go, and we'll go ahead and begin answering them. And anything further, if you have anything more detailed or you don't want to go into too much detail in the chat, you can always write to us, info@beltranbrito.com, and we can set up a consultation and we can talk about your specific case. Okay. So let's go to the first question. Amari asks, I've been a Christian missionary. How can an American Baptist church ask for me using this EB-2 permanent residency national interest waiver, or can I do it on my own? I've been a Christian missionary for the last 10 years, but only when they come to Columbia once a year. By profession, she has a bachelor's degree in marketing and no religious degree. So, Amari, you have two options here. EB-2, EB stands for employment-based. So it's employment-based green card. Category 2, that's why it's EB-2. There's two options. Either you do national interest waiver, where you're basically saying, no one is petitioning me, not the American Baptist Church, I'm petitioning myself because I'm showing what I could bring. Or you can do EB-2 permanent labor certification, PERM, where American Baptist Church is asking for you. So you can do it one of two ways. If you have the backing of American Baptist Church, that is a beautiful labor certification case. And what you do is you show, A, this company can request me and they want to request me. They have looked for a perfect candidate in the US. They cannot find the ideal candidate in the US, and that's why they need me to come. And they have the financial resources to pay me the salary that's common in my industry. Option A. Option B, national interest waiver. Listen, as a Christian missionary, let's not even talk about American Baptist Church. I can bring a lot to the US because I have 10 years of experience, because I've done a lot of work in this area. Even though my bachelor's degree doesn't match up with it, I do have exceptional ability in the field. And so we could do it that route as well. Honestly, give us a call, because this is two great options for you, and we would love to go ahead and pursue it with you. And we'll decide based on either option, which is the best option for you at this time, based on the documentation you have. By the way, for national interest waiver, American Baptist Church can still give us a letter that says, hey, we're very interested in working with her in the future, and it can help. So you have two great options there, and you can pursue either one. I think the paperwork and the documents you have will tell us what's the better case to take for you. And that's why we want to ask you some more specific questions during our consultation.
Exactly, Stephanie. Just to chime in just a bit, I noticed that you've only done that once a year, and the question Amari says that she's done it once a year. So remember, it's 10 years full-time experience. So if you're doing it for full-time 1 month of the year, then you're only getting 1 month credit, not the whole year credit. So that's something to consider, but definitely contact us, because you might have other options, maybe EB-4 for religious workers. Sure. There's a path that way as well. But yeah, we would be more than glad to work with you on that. I guess I'll kind of go then to the next question, Stephanie.
Yep.
So Miss Yesenia Rivera, she says, you guys mentioned that pilots may classify. Pilots usually don't have a degree from a conventional university, usually is an aviation training plus all the licenses. How do you handle it? I mean, this is a perfect example. We don't have that advanced degree. We don't have a bachelor's plus 5, but we can meet the first prong through the exceptional ability standard, where we're going to consider maybe you have 10 years of flight experience, you have membership, you have recognition in your field, you have the certifications and the license, and you can still apply. And well, what's the national interest? I mean, we'll get into that if we work together, but there's a pilot shortage, and I'm pretty sure it's still going on. So we can review this. It's a really great case. We would love to talk to you and get more of the details.
Yeah, it's you maybe, let's make it even clearer. It's, you do not need a master's or a bachelor's plus 5 years experience. Exactly. You can have other things to show this, which is exactly what Alexis is saying. You have all of those things that he mentioned, and that's why we could build the case. It's not necessary to be able to show that you have the academic degree, especially if it's not common in your field. USCIS understands that certain fields won't have certain things.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Okay, so the next one from Anna Calvo. I'm a physician from Costa Rica, graduated in 2018, and I have 3 years of experience currently working for the Social Security hospitals of Costa Rica. I don't have a job offer from the US, and I haven't taken the US MLE test yet. What are my chances with this type of visa? So Anna, What I would say is I would wait till almost year 5. You currently have 3 years of experience. And if you were to wait till year 5, we can qualify you under that first prong. If you don't want to wait, I can potentially qualify you under the second option, which is, do you have a license? From what you're saying, I believe you do. Do you have membership in areas in your field, in associations in your field? You probably might, because from what I understand in Costa Rica, there's a lot of associations for physicians and associations for specialized physicians and individuals who have specialties, right? So you can potentially show membership. You can potentially show maybe you're earning a high salary. Maybe you have recognition from experts in your field. Maybe you've gotten some sort of nomination. Maybe you have a lot of good letters of recommendation in your field. And you do have the academic record to show that you have studied in this field. So even though you've only been working for 3 years, if you can show a lot of those other things that we have mentioned, this could be an option for you. And if you don't have, let's say, the membership in associations, either you could become a member now, or we can wait till you turn that year 5 and then we could go the other route. So there's a lot of options. It is a good option for you, definitely. We're gonna see based on what we talk about and what you can show me if, hey, listen, my recommendation is wait 2 more years, or let's go forward and let's go forward with what we have now. It's being creative, really, right, Alexis?
Exactly. I totally agree with you, Stephanie. I think maybe waiting a couple more years will kind of clarify that. I mean, what's going to be your role here if you haven't taken the USMLE test? You know, that's something that immigration will consider. You know, they want to see that you have that potential to continue to pursue that. It really depends, though. You know, are you doing some maybe research? So are you, is that the, you know, the avenue you're going to take down the road? Can you show past evidence of, you know, performance as a researcher as well? So, I mean, it really depends. It's all a very case-by-case basis. But I agree, you know, in the next year, you're working on that. Speak to us. We don't mind giving you a little bit of a more detailed rundown on what maybe you should do the next couple of years so you can position yourself in a place where when you apply, I mean, nothing's ever guaranteed, but we're going to say you've got a great case, you know, right? We want to work on that. We want to develop that. And I think you should really look into it.
And that's a great point, actually, Alexis, that you made, which is a lot of the time we have consultations with people who are not there yet. And so we give them homework and we say, hey, listen, you're going to be there within a year. This is what you need to do. And so a lot of the times the initial consultation doesn't have to be, okay, I have everything, let's do it. The initial consultation could be, I think I'm getting there. What else do I need? So that you really make sure you're using the best use of your time for the next year to be able to document everything you need.
Exactly, Stephanie. I agree.
All right. Next question, Alexis, you have it from
Jagged. So here we go. So this is a great question. What is the main difference between an EB-1 and EB-2? They look quite similar to me. They do look quite similar. I mean, overall, what's the difference? EB-1 is an employment-based first preference category, and you have an extraordinary ability versus exceptional ability with the EB-2, and it's expanded to the science, arts, education, business, and athletics, right? EB-2, we're looking at science, business, and arts. So there's that difference there, right? Nuance. Now, extraordinary versus exceptional, right? In terms of numbers, there's really no number. Immigration has, and Congress has not defined that. But in a very broad sense, and this by no means legal advice, but extraordinary, you're like top 5, top 10%, you're up there. Exceptional, I mean, maybe you're top 30, top 25%. You know, that's the very, using a numerical way of kind of evaluating that, right? So there's that difference. So they're going to evaluate the evidence differently, even though some of the categories do overlap, and their evaluations of the categories. And so that's going to be the main difference there. They both are evaluating the evidence, and then they're going to have a final merits determination. So essentially, they're going to review holistically the evidence that you provided to meet the categories to see how much above others within your field you are. And really, I'm sorry?
I'm going to jump in.
Sure, yeah.
EB-1, I would, if we're in a consultation and I say, hey, listen, which do you want to do, EB-1 or EB-2? I'm usually going to recommend EB-1 for someone who has more of a public persona. Yeah. Someone who's much more visible publicly. So you have I always love using the example of the chef. The chef does have potentially an academic record, licenses, membership, all that stuff. But the chef is interviewed in the press, they have awards, they're going in competitions, they're on TV, they're on radio, they're in reviews, in magazines, and newspapers. They have a more public persona. So EB-1 might be a better option. EB-2 is the pilot. The pilot isn't being interviewed, but the pilot has a substantial and very important impact in the airline industry. They have licenses, they have certifications. It's more behind the scenes. So I usually am going to prescribe and say, hey, listen, let's go the EB-2 route when you have less of a public persona, but on paper, man, do you have licenses, certificates, memberships, degrees, education, experience. It's much more, I would say, less of a public persona, and that's why I go with EB-2.
Exactly. Sorry, Stephanie, cut you off. It's just to even give one example where we're using the same role. You're an executive, right? You work for a private company, big company, multinational company. Done both of these. EB-1, you're in the news. You're executive of the year multiple times by, the executive magazine of your country. You as a person individually are the focus. That's going to be an EB-1 more than likely. EB-2, I mean, you have the same degrees. You probably have a master's in business or finance, maybe even engineering, depending on your role. Maybe you're CTO or CIO. And, the role, right, it's as Stephanie pointed out, what is your public gauge? How popular are you within your industry to the public? And that's really going to possibly determine if we're going to go that EB-1 or EB-2 route. You may very well qualify for both, and then we're considering other factors such as time, processing, visa bulletin to help determine strategy. But you're right, they're very similar, but of course, talk to us and we'll help you make the distinction of what works best for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is actually funny. It goes to our next question from Arlette, and I'm very surprised, Arlette. So Arlette says, I'm in the US. I received an EB-2 national interest waiver approval on March 23rd and an EB-1 approval on March 30th. So Arlette, you applied for both. I'm very surprised. So you applied for a Format 140 with EB-2, Format 140 with EB-1. You got both approved. You are fantastic in your field. She went ahead and applied for adjustment of status with an I-45 stage 2. She submitted her I-765, which is her employment authorization. She got it approved. She has her employment authorization, which was issued in October. What's the next step? You are going to have an interview. So nowadays, this changed in 2017? Employment-based cases have interviews. So you're going to have an interview with the officer at the U.S. field office. You're going to get that in the mail. And I'll discuss the COVID implications now, but basically you're going to get an interview in the mail notice. You're going to go to your interview and you're going to basically discuss everything you submitted. Be sure you know what was your adjustment status based on. Was it on the EB-2 or was it on the EB-1? I think that's just important. Know which one you're going for. Which one did you finally end up going with? You're going to have an interview. They're going to ask you for not only documentation to show who you are, like identification, but they are going to possibly discuss your field and your career. Be ready to talk about it. Now, side note, as far as COVID implications, with the current pandemic, USCIS actually reopened yesterday. So June 4th. The field office is reopened, so they're starting interviews in person again. They had stopped the interviews in person for a little bit. In certain cases, they were approving, because they didn't have in-person interviews, they were approving stage 2 without an interview. That might be a situation for you. I'll give you the tip. If you get a request for evidence that is only asking for a medical exam or something simple like a birth certificate, marriage certificate, more than likely you will not have an interview. If not, you probably will have an interview. So there is a chance that you get it without an interview because of this whole pandemic situation.
Right. And I just want to add, so Stephanie, I just wanted to add, part of what might determine if you get the interview is what's your priority date, right? So it really depends if you submitted the NIW or the EB-1, the I-45. Maybe you submitted the I-45 with both of them. So check the priority date, kind of pick one. For example, I think they're working on cases now with a priority date of February 2018. So retrogress, went backwards because of the whole COVID situation. There was a holdup. So you probably might not get an interview, assuming October 2019, just using that as a date, since you mentioned it, is your priority date. If it is, you might wait a year or two before you even find out anything. So it's really up in the air. COVID's kind of messed things up a little bit. But congrats. I mean, you got 2 approvals. Sounds like you're exceptional and extraordinary.
Okay,
Extraordinary.
guys, you know, George makes it a simple question, which is how much does the process cost? It does depend slightly. It depends on your family group. It depends on your, you know, what we're applying for, if it's EB-1, EB-2, if we're applying for a certain manner, if you're here in the US, if you're abroad. So it does vary case by case. In a consultation, we'll be able to let you know specifically with your case, with your family, with where you are, what the fees are. So go ahead and contact us, and we'll feel free to go ahead and provide you with the quote. And it looks like we have answered all the questions we have for today. Please feel free to contact us, info@beltranbrito.com, if you want to make a consultation and discuss your case even further, if you have any other questions. If you want to attend further webinars, we'll be having further webinars, Alexis, I think on Thursdays, if the internet complies. And you can always find us on Instagram at Beltran-Brito LLP, or on YouTube, Beltran-Brito Casimir. Thank you for being with us, Alexis.
Thank you very much, Stephanie. Always great to talk with you and to the public. Thank you.
Not that we share a wall or anything.
Not at all. Happy Friday, everyone.
Thank you so much. Oh, Amara, yes, the webinar will be available on YouTube, okay? So you can rewatch it if you have any other questions.
Definitely.